All right, so get this. You're in Amsterdam, right? Cruising along a canal, enjoying the view,
Hmm.
and suddenly this bike zips past.
Okay.
But it's not your typical Dutch bike with the basket and the flowers. It's got these massive tires like something you'd see on a monster truck.
Yeah.
It's pretty jarring, and you're definitely not alone if you're like, what is going on? Those chunky tires, those fat bikes are everywhere in the Netherlands these days,
They really are.
and it's causing quite a stir. Some people love them, some people absolutely hate them.
Definitely a love-hate relationship going on.
And we saw all those articles you sent in, and we had to dive in.
Yeah, had to figure this out.
What's the deal with this fat bike frenzy in the Netherlands? Why are they so controversial? And what's the future hold for these things?
Yeah, so let's get into it. The funny thing is, this whole trend exploding in the Netherlands now,
Yeah.
it actually started about as far away from those canals as you can imagine.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Picture this 1980s Alaska freezing temperatures. A guy named Mark Gronwald is in his garage tinkering, not building an ice sculpture or something.
Right, not your typical garage project.
No, he's building a bike, but not just any bike. He calls it the Snowcat.
The Snowcat. Okay, that sounds intense.
It basically was a bicycle frame, but with these oversized Mosca truck tires made to ride over snow and ice.
Wow, so this is where it all began, huh?
Yep. And the idea took off pretty quickly. Cyclists in places like New Mexico with all that sand, they realize, hey, these big tires, they're not just for snow.
Makes sense. I mean, if it works on snow, why not sand?
Exactly. There's this bike shop owner, Ray Molina. He was actually experimenting with fat tires in the desert back in the 80s, too. He found they were amazing on sand.
So adaptable, right from the start.
Exactly.
Huh.
It just goes to show how versatile fat bikes are, which is a big part of why they've become so popular.
So true. But it wasn't an overnight takeover, right? For a while, fat bikes were kind of this niche thing for adventurers.
Yeah, definitely. You didn't see them around every corner.
But then around 2005, a company called Surly released the Pugsley. That was a turning point, wouldn't you say?
100%.
Hmm.
The Pugsley was a game changer. They started using lighter materials like aluminum, even carbon fiber.
Okay, so suddenly they're not just clunky and heavy anymore.
Right, much more manageable for the everyday rider. The tires and hubs got better too. It was a huge leap forward in design and accessibility.
So fat bikes weren't just for hardcore expeditions anymore, they were for anyone.
Exactly. And that brings us to the Netherlands, a country that's practically synonymous with bikes.
Right, but a very specific kind of bike.
Exactly, your classic Dutch bike, practical, efficient.
Yeah, and now you've got these supersized, often electric fat bikes sharing the bike paths. It's an interesting contrast, to say the least.
It really is. This clash of cultures is where things get fascinating. Because in the Netherlands, cycling isn't just a hobby, it's life.
It's how you get everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you introduce something as different as a fat bike into that mix, well, it's bound to create some waves.
And create waves it has. We'll get into all the reasons why right after this. So we've got this clash of old and new, traditional and trendy. And like you said, it's not just about bikes, it's about generations seeing things differently.
You got it. To really get this controversy, we got to look how each generation sees fat bikes. It's not one size fits all.
Totally. Different lenses, different perspectives. Let's start with the youngest 12 to 16-year-olds. What's their take?
Trendsetters, plain and simple. This generation, they grew up with e-bikes, so the tech is like second nature to them.
Right, so for them, it's not just about getting around. It's got to be cool, right?
100%. They dig that powerful look, the ruggedness. Plus, they use them for everything: school, hanging out, exploring. Fat bikes are freedom, adventure, a way to stand out.
Okay, so the kids are on board. What about young adults? 18 to 30, that crowd.
Now, that's where things get interesting. Some love them for commuting, cruising around, the convenience, but others, especially the ones who really know their Dutch bikes, they start to worry. Especially about safety with the younger, less experienced riders.
Classic tension, right? Embracing the new versus holding on to the familiar.
Exactly. And that tension, it just grows as you move up in age. 30 to 50-year-olds, a lot of them are parents now, right? They're seeing the potential danger firsthand, especially with teenagers on these bikes.
And it's not just kids wiping out, right? It's the speed these things can get up to. They're bigger, heavier than your average bike. That impacts everyone on the road, not just the rider.
Exactly. Which brings us to the older generation, 50 and up.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to be the most vocal against this whole fat bike trend.
I can imagine. They're used to a certain predictability on Dutch roads and bike paths, and these fat bikes disrupt that flow.
Right. Plus, the safety concerns are amplified. Older pedestrians, cyclists, they're just more vulnerable in any kind of traffic situation. And remember, cycling is in the DNA of the Netherlands.
Right, you said it earlier, it's not just a hobby there.
Exactly. So when you see that 39% of Dutch people want fat bikes banned completely,
That's huge.
that's massive.
Yeah.
That's not just a few grumpy folks. It's a deep worry that cuts across society. And it's not just talk either. 95%, that's almost everyone, they want fat bikes banned for under 16s. And nearly 90% want mandatory helmets, no matter your age.
Wow, those numbers are striking. They really show how seriously people are taking this. It's not just a fad that'll pass. It's sparked a real debate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that debate, it's spilling over from the bike paths into the legal system.
It's fascinating, right? You've got this clash happening in a place that's famous for biking, but it's not just a social thing anymore. It's getting legal.
Yeah, the Dutch government's got a real challenge on their hands trying to keep up with this whole thing.
It's not like they can just say, okay, no fat bikes for kids under this age and problem solved, right?
Definitely not. It's tricky because a lot of these bikes, they're being souped up, tricked out to go way faster than a regular e-bike.
Like that they're basically mopeds disguised as bikes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the law gets fuzzy. Some of them even have throttles, which throws a wrench in the whole e-bike classification thing.
So how do you even regulate that? It seems like a nightmare.
It kind of is. But the Dutch government, they're not messing around. They're hitting it from all angles, like cracking down on illegal imports.
Oh, yeah, that huge bust they had in Rotterdam.
Over 16,500 fat bikes seized in one go.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's insane. Talk about a crackdown.
Yeah.
So besides that, what are they doing?
They're getting high tech with it,
Yeah.
using these special testing benches that can analyze a bike's motor on the spot.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Right. They can tell instantly if someone's messed with the motor to make it go faster than it's legally allowed.
Smart, but intense. So it's clear they're taking it seriously. What about actual laws? Are those changing?
Definitely. There's talk about raising the age limit for fat bikes to 14, maybe even 16. And mandatory helmets for everyone, no matter how old you are, that's gaining traction.
So what's next for fat bikes in the Netherlands? Will they become just another bike on the path, or will they fade away?
That's the million-dollar question. It's old versus new freedom versus responsibility. How do you keep what makes Dutch cycling special while adapting to these new bikes?
Tough question. So we've gone from snowy Alaska to the canals of Amsterdam, all because of these chunky, tired bikes. It's more than just a fad. It's a sign of the times.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder how other places will handle this whole fat bike thing. It's a debate that's just getting started.
And that's what we're here for, to break down these complex issues and give you something to think about long after this is over. So next time you see a fat bike cruising around, ask yourself, is it a passing trend or the future of transportation? You decide.